Thanks for staying here. Now, the race is beginning to heat up in the governing National Democratic Congress as parliamentary aspirants declare their intentions to contest in the party's upcoming primaries. Notable names so far include presidential aide Sam George, the public affairs director of the Volta River Authority, Sam Kwesi Fletcher, and the executive director of the National Services Secretariat, Dr. Michael Wesa-White. Others are the media personalities such as Alhassan Suhuyini of Radio Gold, Abeku Santana of FM, and we'll discuss this matter over the next few minutes. Political correspondent Malik Abbas Dab was joining me in the studio to look at the contest shaping up in the NDC. I'm sure there are many other names that have also popped up. What are those names?
You know, politics has become such a lucrative business. Whether we like it or not, it has become. It brings money and honor and dignity. So a lot more interesting names are up. You mentioned many of them. We know another press aide at the presidency, Clementa Park. Clementa Park is going for the Bulsa South constituency. That is currently being held by Alhassan Azong of the PNC, but it's traditionally been an NDC because since '92, it was one Norbert Awule who held the seat until he lost it to one Roger Abolimbisa in 2004. Roger served one term and lost it in 2008 to Alhassan Azong. So Alhassan Azong is holding the seat. Clementa Park believes that because he comes from Kadima in the area, that he believes that he can snatch.
In fact, when I called him yesterday, he said he was there. It means that he's already doing some groundwork in Bulsa South.
Yeah, yes, he is. I'm sure he didn't start today. He started a while back because he's nursed the ambition for some time now. My own hunch is that he may win the primaries. He may have difficulty snatching the seat from the PNC because Alhassan Azong is regarded very much as a grassroots person. The people love him. They believe he has time for them. One of the complaints that constituents have consistently made is that MPs are not available, but Alhassan Azong is more accessible than many of the MPs that we have. In fact, people from the Bulsa North constituency, when they have problems, he's the one they call on, even though they are not his constituents. And he listens to everybody. He picks everybody's call. He's not one of those MPs that avoid calls. I think Clementa Park will have a difficult task upstaging Alhassan Azong in that constituency.
Do you see same for Sam George, who's going in the Ningo Pram area?
I think I do. I had personal discussions with him. He's confident that he can undo the colossus. E.T. Mensah is a colossus in that constituency. He virtually has a certain entitlement to the constituency. He's been there since '92. If you speak to constituents, they believe that he's done marvelously well for them. He too is accessible to them. He's a veteran politician. This is a young, passionate fellow.
But there were talks of E.T. Mensah stepping down. You know, he wouldn't go for another tenure in office as a legislator. Do you see that happening?
Politicians rarely stand by what they say. A lot of the time they will make promises they will not. I am not saying that he promised to and he didn't, but a lot of the time they change their mind. I also heard those rumors that he was going to step down and that he was actually grooming Sam George to take the seat, and somehow they fell out of favor with each other. So he decides to go back. When I spoke to Sam George the other day, he says that he believes that he can beat this guy regardless of the reputation he has for himself in the Ningo Pram constituency. Sam George believes he can undo him and win the primaries. If he does win the primaries, given the nature of that constituency, he will certainly be in parliament.
My surprise in all of the names that have popped up is Sam Kwesi Fletcher of the VRA.
Yeah,
what shocked you?
He's going for Gomwa West, and we know that he's a renowned PR practitioner. He's done tremendously well at Gridco where he is. But it's like he too has to take a dive, about like George Anda did. George Anda, excellent marketing fellow, was at MTN, made a good name for himself. He takes a dive into politics. Sam Fletcher is doing same for Gomwa West in the central region, and George Anda is in Uti Senya West. Also in the central region, that's Hanatete's constituency. There is a retired military officer in that constituency, Danny Williams, Lieutenant Danny Williams, who also believes that he can beat Hanatete in the primaries so that he will face George Anda in the Uti Senya West constituency in the central region. So those are very
A
interesting
lot seems to be changing. Yeah, indeed. Interesting constituencies to watch. A lot, and mostly in the central region. Were there any other surprises for you?
I think Bidzeden has a certain checkered history with the NDC. Bidzeden was the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC when the party had when he was in opposition. He believed that Josiah I was the General Secretary at the time. Josiah I had some problems and was suspended. After having done well, he thought that he ought to have been made a substantive general secretary. It didn't happen in the party's difficult congress at Koforidua. The party voted for Johnson Asiri Nketia instead. So himself and the party chairman at the time, Obeda Samuel, decided to break out to go form a party, the Democratic Freedom Party, the DFP. So he contested on the DFP ticket in the Laura constituency, but lost. That seat is being held by Abu Samson currently. If he wins the primaries, he comes up against the MPP's Anthony Kabu, the MPP's former youth organizer, who is also in that constituency on the MPP's ticket. So it will be interesting to see how, that's also a traditional NDC safe seat. It will be interesting to see how, and Kabu contested in the last election in 2012 and lost to Abu Samson.
We should look out for that.
It will be interesting to see how Kabu and Bidzeden
for the first time names we're hearing, do you see them having an easy go? Like Sam Fletcher?
In some constituencies they may, in others they can't. Because in some constituencies, incumbent MPs have become complacent and the people are tired of them. People want fresh blood. So depending on the person's own strength and personal character and connections with the people and dealings with the constituents, the person may do well. Some clearly will have a difficult task. As I see, my friend Sam George may have a difficult task dealing with E.T. Mensah in the Nungu Pram constituency. Some of the constituencies are such that the new faces can do well, and some other constituencies they will not do well. Remember Samokujita Blakwa. He did well for himself in his first time, and he beat an incumbent and became the party's parliamentary candidate, and he won the seat in the Volta region. So in some constituencies, depending on the nature of the constituency and the history of the person with that constituency, you can either do well or you can fall.
But there are some constituencies where the incumbents are stepping down. What will be the implications for the party?
Well, in those constituencies, it still depends on where the constituency is. If, for example, in the Volta region, no matter who steps down, no matter who comes, it still will remain a safe seat. So is the case in the Ashanti region for the MPP. No matter what happens, take Upper West for example. There are 11 seats in Upper West. All 11 seats are being held by the governing National Democratic Congress. So if a person steps down and a new person comes, it may not be entirely difficult for the party to retain the seat because some seats are traditionally safe seats for certain political parties.
Well, thank you very much, Malik. Malik Abat Dabu is our political correspondent here. We've been discussing some of the names that have popped up ahead of the November 5 parliamentary primaries for the National Democratic Congress. Now, away from that, the National Peace Council is asking the Electoral Commission to seriously look into concerns over the credibility of the voters' register. The council is warning of the risk of violence ahead of next year's general elections. The opposition New Patriotic Party has demanded a new voters' register for the elections in 2016, claiming the current one is bloated. Chairman of the National Peace Council, Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, says ignoring the opposition's concern would be a mistake.
The fact that we are talking about this means that there is a need for the Electoral Commission to really take that seriously. But I would think that they will not just limit it to the political parties because, you know, I mean, stakeholders are more than just people who are actively involved in partisan politics. Civil society also come in. But I must say that I'm glad I have cited a letter, a copy of which had been sent to the Peace Council, that the Electoral Commission wants to get stakeholders to discuss the whole issue. I think that it is important that we sit and discuss it, look at the pros and cons of the arguments that are being presented from different quarters, and find a common platform and let's reach a consensus before we go to the ballot.
Why do you think it's important to settle this before the poll?
I think it is important because if we don't do that, what is going to happen is that you then would have allowed people, giving people the opportunity to either reject, the credibility of the vote. It might even lead to conflict, which might degenerate into violence.
And is a peace council ready to help in this conversation, this talk?
The peace council will be more than ready for that. As a matter of fact, we definitely will be meeting, for instance, and we hope that we will be able to meet with the Electoral Commission on this particular issue.
I tell you what, how well you use words can make a lasting impression on people. So here's what you have to do. Wield those words skillfully, and people may perceive you in any number of positive lights as intelligent, poised, persuasive, and even funny. But even one little grammatical slip can have the opposite effect, like this one. One person who knows that too well is Member of Parliament for the Adentan constituency, Emmanuel Ashimo. He recently faced criticism for a number of wrong grammatical constructions. But he tells Joy News the backlash was unjustified.
I can tell the authority I have command of the English language. You cannot do mistakes anymore. I've had a colleague of mine who stood up one day and said, the telephone is in my ears. I've heard a colleague of mine on the floor of Parliament who said, telecos instead of telcos. I've heard a colleague of mine who was saying that daily graphic. Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many things, but that's why I'm saying that in the line of your job, you definitely and you go along with it. That's why we have editors in the radio stations and the TV station for them to edit whatever goes on and they pick it up from there. But people sometimes will call me and say, listen, I should record it and send it to me, and I play it, and I'll ask, oh, so why should I make this mistake? You should have sent this. Instead of going to say, speak, and you say, spoke. Oh, you're a foolish guy. And just make laugh of it and go along, because mistakes are not written behind or in front of a human being. So you just bash it up and you go, and then that is it. It's not an issue. The major mistake is for you in life to commit a crime. Even people who commit crimes are even pardoned.
Over the years, crossing the 37 to Tekwashi Highway, particularly the spot popularly known as Spana Junction, has been an arduous and dangerous task for pedestrians. The fast-moving traffic makes it difficult for pedestrians to make it across the stretch. The situation is compounded when the traffic light is dysfunctional. Pedestrians are forced to run across the road, risking their lives. But there is some hope for pedestrians now with the construction of the soon-to-be commissioned overhead walkway. My colleague Michaela Anderson went to the area and has filed this report.
Pedestrians who normally cross this stretch of road here at the Tekwashi interchange in Fear can now heave a sigh of relief. That is because the footbridge behind me is almost completed and it will soon be open to them. The construction of the bridge has been necessitated by the numerous accidents on this stretch of road. Many have been killed and others severely injured.
Oh, they keep long because anytime we cross this road, accidents, knocking, it's very, very bad.
One day I just left from work and I was crossing and I just heard bam, someone was just knocked, and I felt really somehow. So it's really good that we would be using the footbridge instead of the road, and it will decrease the rate of death on the road.
Some young men who are briskly doing some paving works and walkways say the footbridge will be open to the public by Monday, and this means bad news for hawkers who sell around the footbridge, because we understand the place will be barricaded.
We are trying to barricade around the whole place so that they won't get access to come and sell here. And I think AMA will also monitor the activities here so that selling will be avoided. Yeah, we will complete here maybe by the end of the week and open it by the end of the month.
The interesting thing about this footbridge located here at the Tetakwashi interchange is that it is disability friendly, and it is expected that when the I's are dotted, T's crossed, and projects finally commissioned, it will drastically reduce the accident rate on this stretch of road. Michaela Anderson for Joy News.